management of e-business. And this session covers some of the tools that you can use in strategic management and in reports about strategic management. So, what are we trying to do with our e-business strategy? Well, just the same as we're trying to do with our business strategy. We want our business to survive, to grow, to find new opportunities, and decrease in costs in order to boost profit. So, growing could involve new products, services, new customers, mergers, acquisitions of existing businesses. Lowering costs could mean increasing the efficiency of transactions, lowering capital costs, lowering staff costs. So whatever situation the business is in, the e-business has to support whatever goals the business has set. Some combination of these six things you'll see in any company report. And I mentioned the Porter's 5 forces, and this helps us to understand competitiveness. And remember, competitiveness is really crucial because capitalism involves creative destruction. Whatever business you're in, there is competition. You can't rest on your laurels, you have to keep improving. Sometimes that means doing the same thing better. Sometimes, as discussed, it means switching, jumping the S-curve to a different business model altogether. So, to understand the situation of a business, you should think about the rivalry or concentration of that industry or sector, the threat of substitutes, which means your customers find different ways of meeting their needs. So you may be the best in your industry, but your customers might still walk away if there's a new substitute product or service. Buyer power, supplier power, about the negotiation of price between you and your customers, you and your suppliers. And then the barriers to entry. How do you prevent new competitors coming along, whether it's through your brand, your intellectual property? Okay, so this is widely recognized as one of the most influential authors and one of the most influential ways of thinking about business strategy. So applying those forces in the context of e-business, we have to think about what Chappie calls the buy side. You're buying stuff from your suppliers, you're selling stuff on to your customers. What are the threats? What are the intermediaries that might be affecting the price of raw materials? Again, when you're selling to your customers, are you doing that directly, or are you doing it through intermediaries like a food supply or food manufacturer might be selling through supermarkets to customers? So there might be threats of that intermediary as well as from the customers. And then in terms of the competitive threats, the substitute, new digital products, an intensity of rivalry, new entrants, or new business models altogether. So this is Chappie's take on Porter's 5 forces, adapting it to incorporate some aspects of e-business like digitization and like the increasing likelihood of new business models emerging. So, that kind of picture helps a business understand where it is and also understand what it could be doing with e-business. Well, in forming the business strategy, the business will typically do some kind of competitive analysis. Or in forming the e-business strategy, again, you start with a competitive analysis, so what I just talked about, and then going on to defining your objective, talking about the internal and external environment, that's those forces, identifying gaps or complete a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, develop a strategic plan, implement the plan. So this is kind of what you're contributing to in making your proposal to the business, that these are some things that you might think about doing. Here's one which I recommend in particular, and here's the reason why. The SWOT analysis is a way of capturing in a table the business situation. So it's kind of an alternative to the Porter forces in this sort of diagram. So you could do one or the other, probably not worth doing both in your report. So you can write about the strengths, the opportunities, and if there's opportunities in your areas of strength, then those are possibilities that you can attack. If there's an opportunity but this is an area you're currently weak in, you would first of all have to create those strengths, address the weaknesses, enhance your strength in order to move into a position of attack. If you see more in the way of threat, then you need to think about a defensive strategy, build on your strength. Or if the threats are in an area of weakness, how can you address those weaknesses so that you can defend your position? Okay. Yeah.
Something your strength at the same time as your weakness.
Well, it's a good point. The question was, could something be both a strength and a weakness? And in terms of dealing with one opportunity, some part of your organisation might be a strength, but it might also be a weakness. If you think about a company which is very traditional and has a strong brand because of that long tradition, that's a strength on the one hand, but it's also a weakness because that company is less likely to move into e-business, and if it does, it's less likely to be successful because it's seen as being very traditional. So the tradition can give you a strong brand, but that can also be a problem. So there are many examples of long-established companies that failed to manage a transition. And Kodak is an example I've already mentioned, was a very recognized camera company, but just didn't make it as a digital camera company. So yeah, it's a good point. You could list the same aspect as both a strength and a weakness in different contexts. Question?
About threat. What are the situations where there are actually no threat, no competitors, like perhaps like a government arm and it's a monopoly? Is it what could that be produced? In that,
If you've got a threat which is...
what is in a business situation where there is no threat, there are no competitors, no competing people?
Oh, wow. There are no threats, there are no competitors. Well, then you don't have to fill in these boxes, but it's very unusual for an organisation to be in a
So,
situation.
for example, like a government, say, Ministry of Transportation or something,
Yeah,
and they don't have any competing.
yeah. So the suggestion is, if you're not a business organisation, then you may be in a different situation, and that's true to some extent. So I mean, the whole business about the 5 forces is thinking about business strategy. So it's not thinking about non-profit or government organisations. But if you look in the UK at the government ministries and departments, you will find that over a period of history, they have been changed. Some of those departments continue forever without change, maybe the Treasury, but other departments grow, shrink, and merge. And the government does that because they're not satisfied with the performance of the ministry as it is. So you may think, I'm fine, I've got a rich, powerful sponsor, UK government, I can rest on my laurels. But if that ministry fails to meet its targets, then the government will eventually act in some way to change the situation. For example, by disbanding that ministry, breaking it up, mixing it up with other ministries. So in the real world, there's no such thing as there are no threats. It may be the threats are not urgent or imminent, but nonetheless, okay, to quote from business, does anyone know who said only the paranoid survive? It was Andy Grove. And does anyone know what company Andy Grove is associated with? Has anyone heard of Intel? Okay. Now, would anyone say, look at Intel, they're a company with no competitors. What threat could there be? They make processors for PCs, and there is no competitor. Right? But there are competitors, right? And we know, that other processor manufacturers and other processors are indeed emerging as threats to Intel. So even when you've established a nice competitive advantage, you can't stop considering your competition. All right. Yeah.
I think it really comes to a question of what we think. Like,
Yeah.
traditionally people think computation is, people tend to think A and B are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They are competing. However, it doesn't have to be that case. For example, in China, the cable TV are dominantly controlled by the government.
Yeah.
However, there's no rival to them.
Yeah.
That people are migrating from laptops and internet TV, and they're not.
Absolutely, yes. So you have to understand, this is the comment, that competition means substitute as well as other people doing the same thing with the same business. That's traditional competition. But in the world of e-business and digital technology, new technologies come along which undermine your nice situation of advantage. Even though you think you've got a monopoly, some new digital product that's doing something different, people suddenly migrate there because they say, hey, we should watch TV on our mobile phones or whatever, and suddenly the cable TV company is losing its profitability simply because of substitute, not because someone with the same business model, but someone with a different business model, a new digital product is substituted. Thank you for that point. Okay. Only the paranoid survive. There's always some kind of threat. It may or may not be imminent or urgent. So again, these are different ways of looking at a strategy formation process, thinking about your objectives. Every business organization will have some vision or mission. It may be clearly stated and labelled, this is the mission statement, or you may find it in a description of what the organisation does. Most likely that will be backed up with specific objectives which have got some kind of number. At the moment we're number 2 in the market with 30%, we'd like to be number 1 with 45% of the customer share. So an objective is associated with a particular target. Okay, so thinking about the vision and the objectives, how are they captured? Are we trying to replace or complement bits of the business? What are we trying to achieve? And then how does the e-business support all of that? So it's worth spending a little bit of time understanding the current situation in the business before you formulate your e-business proposal. So that's a little bit abstract. Here's an example of formulating a strategy, taking it down to some specific objectives for some key performance indicators, KPIs, or metrics, things that you might measure. So in a particular company, you might find in its business goals that it's hoping to develop revenue from new geographical markets, or to increase revenue from small-scale purchases, or retain key account customers, or improve efficiencies, sourcing raw materials, etc. So those are the kind of business goals that flow out of the mission for that business. Now, you might then say, oh well, what we can do is create some kind of e-commerce facility, sure, but in the context of geographical markets, we might want to associate that e-commerce with agents whose role is to grow that geographical market. Or if our goal is to make it easier for our customers, our retailers, to buy small-scale purchases, well, just having an e-commerce facility makes it easier to buy smaller amounts of goods. So how you phrase the e-commerce facility varies slightly depending on the business goals. And then to make your proposal compelling to the board, you want to be able to talk about a target in terms of absolute and relative numbers. I recommend it using both absolute and relative numbers because, you know, sometimes a 5% increase doesn't sound very much, but for a big company, a 5% increase might be millions or even $1 billion of some currency. So, this is the kind of language you need to do to move from the business goal through to the e-business solution to the impact of that solution in terms of something you quantify. Okay, so the process then, the detailed process of strategy formation at the level of the board will be to think about all of the different aspects of the business and decide what to do in those areas. And this is interesting because here we're thinking about e-business or digital business, and Chappie's saying, well, you can use e-business to improve the channel, how you're communicating and selling, market and product development, how do we build out new areas or new kinds of customers, how do we develop new products and services, how do we position and differentiate ourselves, what kind of image do we convey with our website, with our Facebook or social media presence, what is the business and revenue model that we're based on, can e-business allow us to vary that business model or even adopt a different one so we could restructure the marketplace, how do we manage the chain of goods from our suppliers, how do we improve our understanding of the business, how can we make use of our staffing and resources more effectively. So Chappie's keen to look at the business as a whole and not just think about e-business meaning we have a website that sells items. Now, some people have said e-business is slightly different from normal business strategy in that technology changes quite quickly and might create new business opportunities that have quite a narrow window. So in some cases you may need to act quickly in order to seize that opportunity. Against that, I would observe a number of IT initiatives fail to deliver or don't meet their business case. And one of the problems is if you try and move too quickly and don't think through what you're doing, it's unlikely that you will succeed. So you do have to plan and manage them, even if you think you only have a narrow window. So I don't think that e-business strategy is totally different from normal business strategy. Though I have mentioned it is different in that it's unlikely you're talking about significant amounts of capital. It's more likely to fail, so you do want to aim for a higher rate of return and more quickly than with other more traditional opportunities. So, I wonder if you can have a go at this activity. Suppose you pick the university, which is not a traditional business, but equally it's not quite a government department, but something in between. You can find the university's financial statement. Can you find our mission statement or somewhere the goals and objectives of the university? And then create a SWOT chart. Think about a simple SWOT chart. You think about strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and put 2 or 3 bullets in each box. Okay. Now, do the same thing again with a smaller bit of the university, some subdivision that you're already familiar with, but not ECS, and try and assess whether it's ready for the digital opportunities, these kind of things. So this is the sort of thing that you'll be doing in your assignment, and I'm saying, have a go and use the university as the organisation for this. All right. So, you can do this on your own. You can do it with your neighbour. You probably want to have somebody who's got access to the internet so that they can
I assume
locate
the last one is
university
CBAX.
and then make a start. Or maybe you already know what.
这个课文少
3 pages.
pick cover division division statement 是什么意思？宣言派是吧？不，是吗？校训呗。
The subdivision is CBAX. Holy shit. We had to use Turnitin like 3 times. All those 3 times were terrible.
I
do like the plagiarism check that they do.
我一上班的课就知道。
Bloody hell. Increase surplus, manage cost, efficient, effective, streamline governance, enhance productivity, increase revenue, optimize our offer. Why would increase surplus be in the same thing as optimize our offer and enhance productivity? They're all weighted by our cost function. What does the OT stand for again? Opportunities is that. So a strong opportunity is I'm a Filipino therefore take out the top Cambridge fact. But there is a threat in that as well, if they get caught in bad press. Yeah, but that's why you hire contractors, someone who's not directly associated with the university. But if it's threat, we have to consider it will get back to us. Yeah, and then a weakness of an opportunity. That'll be the weakness of the opportunity. So your strength would be having a squad to protect and attack, and a weakness would be a weakness. A threat would be people somehow our brand getting conflated with Southampton Union, Southampton Solent. The strength of that is that we could just crush them like vermin as they are. And a weakness of that is that, again, bad press and we get caught, again, booking and other factors. You think the strategy for language Duolingo. That's it, that's Duolingo. Like we have Linda, they have Duolingo. We have a nice platform where they teach us a lot of the things and we charge a lot of money for it, and they have an app that is free.
这是你妈的头像是吧？两个牛。
They can, that's going on so like, you still have liamhegarty.com, yeah, you point it at Sportcast, and then I can say, you want to see Sportcast, liamhegarty.com, look it up. But then I need to actually figure out how to
你这也有好几百字，可以写一篇论文了呀。
One command. One command. For every start. I'm gonna make a script of it on there. Just put it in the cron script like every day and check it out. Almost I do it twice a day. Nothing special here. 7 times. Too much love.
分左右吗？
I googled University Southampton mission statement, and the third thing I found was the university strategy page. Now, it says our mission is to change the world for the better, which is kind of a useless mission statement because it really doesn't give you any idea. Are they going to tell that you offer something in the future, or you know, Oh yeah, so it's a kind of mission statement about half the companies in the world would agree with it. So you need to go a little bit deeper. And then there's this statement, which is a really exceptional place where people achieve remarkable things, well, that's very nice, but it's not a mission statement, because it's simply saying, this is what we believe we are, and it's sort of marketing. Okay. And now it's okay, we want to build our reputation and be better than our competitors at what we do. Well, we're sort of getting there, but it's still not there. So I think we probably need to go a little bit into the goal strategy. Goals. Okay. So let's have a look at the actual strategy. Right. And interestingly, it starts with a statement from the Vice Chancellor, who's equivalent to the Chief Executive Officer in a business. So the Vice Chancellor is a title, we call himself President Vice Chancellor. That's the US title, that's the UK title. This is a person who really has to make things happen. And there are some kind of claims here. We want confident global graduates making positive contributions, blah, blah, blah. We want our research to have real economic and social benefits, and people will choose Southampton because of these things, and staff will also choose this. And then over here, we're actually getting to some specific goals. Okay. So I think you can begin to see the sort of aspirations and very wishy-washy mission of changing the world for the better comes down to we want to be ranked in the top 10 UK, top 100 nationally, student survey, and all these things like the graduate prospect entry tariff feed into those, and then the way we will assess our research actually isn't through economic and social benefits, but it's in the UK government framework for assessing research excellence. And finally, sustainability and generating a surplus, that if you read later on, it'll say the target is a 5% surplus to enable reinvestment in the buildings and facilities of the university. So actually the targets are top 10 UK, top 100 internationally, and student experience, graduate prospect, entry tariff, and the quality of degrees that you graduate with. Okay. So, to start with high aspirations, you end up with specific targets, but you may have to dig a little bit in order to find the actual target. Right. So that was the first thing. We've kind of got a mission and some goals, and we could even give the specific targets and objectives that support those goals. So, have a go thinking about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats for the university as a whole, given this is the mission and goal. I'll give you 5 minutes for that. 3 bullets thereabouts in each box. Feel free to work with your neighbour.
I thought SWOT was for strategy. I didn't think you could SWOT a business.
No, you SWOT a business to generate strategy.
So we've already got the other stuff down.
Strengths would be top 100 top 5 in the UK. Or top 20 overall.
Brexit.
What?
The EU funded a shit ton of unis.
And a bunch of research.
Decline in international students. Without international students, UCS is not.
No, we're all proper internationalists.
Huh?
Most of us are proper internationalists.
Yeah, true. The Romanians. Frank.
Yeah, Frank. There's not that many white people in ECS.
Yeah,
One of 3.
I'm one of. Now I think about it. Well, besides George, I'm the only majority here. Look at all these minorities. I know I am another majority.
Where?
T-shirt. He looks like no wait, he's not international as well. So.
Yeah, he's from like Germany or some shit. Phineas is from London. Kinda white. You're 2 white people. Oh, 2 pages. Why have you got so many warnings?
Because of YouTube dashes.
一般人到那个年纪啊，一般到比如说像88年，可能会有点更年期。
哎呀，那肯定的呀，我妈就是更年期。
对，那就是，而更年期就特别敏感了，容易受刺激。
我妈一直都有点这样，我妈一直都比较敏感，然后她现在，你知道吗？就我就是感觉说她老伤害我。
But they don't get dirty humor or cynicism or something better.
她总是伤害我。
不是，像独生子女吧，像女生啊，那种你应该是你爸更年期情况多，不应该是你妈。
Do you want me to ask that question on my first day away?
你爸比较淡定。
我爸比较淡定，我爸可能会有一些情绪，但是我妈就是会比较淡定。
还有是不是那样啊？就是比如说你爸妈、你妈看见周围的别的孩子都结婚了呀，有孩了呀。
我跟你说，我妈，我现在的状态就是比我前面的哥哥姐姐今年就都把对象领回家，应该就都很稳定，然后
对，觉得。
然后我妈，我现在工作不是很稳定，然后我也现在很少和我妈说我后对象的事。
他知不知道你对象？
他知道我对象。
然后呢，其实
他
是满意还是
不是很满意？
那就得了。
他不是很满意，然后再加上我现在还不和他说。
然后现在就是感觉对你这事儿，感觉各方面都觉得不太看好。
然后很无力，他还抱不到我，他还很无力。然后，但是我不需要他玩，而且我现在还小啊，我这。然后他就。
download the template that does all this shit for you.
习惯的话，就让人就觉得搞得人很憋屈。
不是，他是想。就是有时候就是通过刺激激将来达到一些他觉得是对的事，
对，他觉得是对的事情，他特别喜欢胡说，
这就好理解了呀。其实都是那样，父母都是那样。
我就想。
而且你们家是一般都是你妈拿主意是吧？
也不是。就是我爸。
这就是你妈是不是平时以前就是喜欢跟别人家，比如说一般讨论说我们家孩子、你们家孩子怎么样？
我都不太清
楚他到底但是他就，我就感觉我从小比较乖，因为我从小比较乖，我小孩在我在出国的时候，我慢慢开始形成自己的这个性格
你跟你
我妈就有点接受不了。
然后你跟你对象大学都是一个班的吗？
对，算是一个班。
他们几年？
Huh?
今年是2年了，
你们是要毕业了才
Looking up as of inflation.
Yeah, if I had a room, it looked
不
like
是
a big jump.
大学期间一直大
Victoria
三吧，
What in America, isn't it? For-profit university.
是带回国家
They're
的。
not for profit, they're still
你妈
non-profit.
爸妈
just
见
like
过
here.
吗？
It's just it's less money.
我妈见过。
Is why they have so many more in the top 100 billion.
不是，他是觉得他，比如说你妈觉得你男朋友不行，觉得人长得不那个还是
他之前想，我男朋友这个人吧，他要强，他要
家庭环境怎么样？
还可以，
那也要强是什么意思？
是他
The fuck? Yep, that doesn't make
他
sense.
他对自己的要求比较高，
Profitable. It's good for
所以他就是
No, it's not.
然后他就
Terrible.
他想做到一些事情，然后但
We
是
found that university mission is something to do with companies that graduates, that want research really,
然后自己在感觉想做
and
多
Southampton students choose University of Southampton for the reason given. The goal is to be top 10 in the
凭借
UK
自己的兴趣去看看这个，看看。
and very little bit lower is the 5% annual surplus. So, just at a high level, anybody got any trends they think would be worth noting? So, some subjects
就是没找人分正儿八经问题的工作。
internationally leading.
而且他现在确实也不是很稳定，各个方面都不稳定，情绪也不稳定，生活不稳
And
定，
it's not
工
just
作也不稳定。
electronic computer stuff. So, the Vice Chancellor Board
那
would be a little bit upset if you said, oh well, you know, computer science is internationally leading, without also
这个就是你
acknowledging
是
other areas.
丈母娘之间会闹大矛盾的。
Oceanography.
So if you're being told road
Oceanography, we got. Yeah.
So I pushed back and said, it's not just ECS, and the response is, well, what else is there?
Oceanography.
Now, remember, you are presenting your proposal to the board, who are responsible for the company as a whole. So if you lobby for one particular bit of the company, you have to do that very carefully, because the board as a whole will say, yeah, but you're ignoring all the rest, you know. We're managing the whole company. Why should we give you all the money for your proposal? Because there's all these other bits as well.
不想上学，这是最关键的问题，不是我们上学的事。
Yeah, what are the other bits that are internationally leading? Well, if you look at the results of the graph over time, University of very good medicine, as we say, there's all the bits of engineering which are internationally leading. There's some surprising outcomes that this university might not think might use it,
How much of an English degree is
which is very, very small, but it's still internationally leading. So, I accept that comment, but in general, not just specifically about
English, you know? Maybe they
Yeah,
have
okay,
some
so
like,
that's,
you know, College of Engineering.
part of this sort of reputation.
It would surprise me if they did like
Building
history.
thing
The
is
like, you know, history.
membership of the Russell Crew.
Location, with regard to the NOC.
So why is the location important?
The National Oceanographic Center.
Okay, yeah,
And an
yeah.
outcome.
And an
Well,
outcome.
yeah, but that's sort of, so it helps one bit of the university
你
to
记
be
着这一点，
quite
我
But that's
奉
only
劝
one
你一句
bit.
话，就是一定要记住这几点。
Otherwise, this is a test,
他不
but
管人家
if
感情，
you
你
go
看
around the
他不管
world,
怎么去折腾，
you say to people,
千万
oh,
别
I
拿
come from
你的
Southampton, they kind of look a bit
搭上
worried
你的
and they
你的
say,
钱
oh,
或者
where's
你爸妈
that?
的钱
You
去
say,
实现
oh, it's
帮他
in
实
the
现
south.
梦想。
You say,
差不多，这是很
near
关键的。
London, and you say, yeah, near London. So
就是
actually,
它如
it's
果
not
有
a
能力去实现去实现，但是
location
你
which
不能
is
像赌
particularly
博似的，赌
well
上你的东
known
西或者你爸妈的东西去
internationally.
放在实现，你一定得记录这个。
他就是因为
Okay, so
不要 不要别人的
and in particular, his row,
要能想，不需
and
要
you
别
see
人
the
的。
same thing actually, if you
就
look
如果
at
是不
the
想结着别人搭上，也不
talking
行。
about carnival and cruises, sometimes cruise companies will advertise a cruise
为啥呢？
starting in Southampton. Or actually they might put
对
starting
经
in
济总会
London,
发光。但是
brackets,
你如果是平面石头，你怎么说也说不起来。他说
That's very
你
different.
千
But
万
if
不能
you're
放在
flying
你
into
或者你爸
Heathrow
妈的
and you get on a coach, it takes you down
去
to
帮别
Southampton,
人
it
实
only
现
takes a bit
你
over
到
an
时候
hour. So it is relatively
结果
close
会
to that bit of London.
比较惨。
Yeah.
你记得这句话就对了。
好的。
还有就是
Yeah.
就是在
Oh, the other candidates were scared.
现
Ah, yes.
实
So,
面前感
so
觉
there's no doubt that Southampton's a good. Oh,
该放
you
手
went over your
不
interview
是就是
in
感觉
which
没那
country?
么没那么
In the UK,
没那
yeah.
么稳定。
So in the UK,
好。
Southampton has a reputation, but I wouldn't say that it's the location is the great strength. I mean, there is a reputation that we're close to the top 10 at the university and well within the top 10 ECS and some other bits of the university. So if you go to the institute, you tell the other candidates, oh, you know, I did a cruise out to Southampton, they will think, oh my gosh, you know, you're going to be really scary, aren't you?
Fitness.
So there's
That doesn't make
a
sense.
number
Yeah,
of
cooking.
strengths.
Do that.
What about weaknesses?
Some subjects are weak.
Yeah, okay, so that's the other side to this is, so it would be foolish to say some subjects are weaker, because some are stronger, some are weaker, that's inevitable. But it may be that some subjects are particularly weak. Yep.
Isn't there currently a bit of an accommodation shortage?
Is there an accommodation shortage?
Yeah, I think they removed the caps and they're still working and they're installing they're making loads of halls now, there's loads of building sites over the place, but for now there's a bit of a...
Will never die. I think that will never die. Overflow storage will life.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. If you go into the centre of Southampton, count the number of private halls which are under construction or have just been finished. There are about 6 that I'm aware of. Private halls. So I think this is a very valid point. The university is short of halls, and what happens? Private business steps in and says, we will build some halls. Now, whether they'll fill them is an interesting question, because 6 new halls in the centre of Southampton seems quite an expansion to me. But yeah, so the university recently built new Mayflower halls, the new halls in Twavely, but still, that's barely enough for 1 year of students. And probably, if the university had enough for about 2 years of students, that would be roughly the kind of demand. So it's possible the university could double, but in practice it's happening. The way it's happening at the moment is that private companies are doing that. Yeah, another comment.
Our distance from Southampton Central, I'd say, is a bit of a weakness.
Distance from Southampton
Central, so...
Okay, so the location is a strength, not a city centre,
这个跟这个事儿跟那个事儿差不多。
university.
相关的费用拿去
It's true, it's true.
考虑时跟做统装这些。
The interesting comment, where did the university begin?
就是发现这个宿舍好多
In the library?
就是没有办法。
Before the library,
London?
Before the university moved to this site,
Was it London?
was on the High Street. If you start the Bargate and walk down the High Street to the
这是一个折
water,
腾的人，
look out on your left,
真的
sort
是
of hidden behind some bushes,
我
there's a little blue plaque and it says, this is the original site of the Harvard Institution, which became the University of Southampton.
我觉得
And it was a beautiful grand Victorian
你应该
building,
考
at
虑
the
考
top
虑
of the
真的。
portico, there were these statues which are sitting outside the library.
从我
Those
的阅历
are
来
what's
说，
left of
这种人
the original building in the centre of Southampton. And why do you think the university moved from that central position here at the time? This was the age of Southampton. Why did the university move from the centre to the edge?
cheaper.
Cheaper to expand.
不是所有人就是
So actually,
就是会
there are advantages not being in the centre. Of course, in the meantime, the
但
city's
是
grown
在那
around,
段时
and
间
so
之前，
it's
作为
harder
他的
for the
家人或者
university
作
to
为他
expand.
媳妇儿会比较痛苦，甚至他媳妇儿的家人会比较痛苦。
The city is too small. Okay.
That is the key point rather than the not being the
All right. So Southampton
而且还得看他的心理，
is only
他的内心世界是不是足够强大。如果不是足够强大的人，成功可能性会更低。但如果内心 非
okay.
常
So
强大，
those are
不是
kind of
这个
weaknesses,
就是
but
任何事给他
some of
帮
them
助
are
出去，他安慰你。 如果他
outside
反过来，就说
of
明
the
内心很多
university.
内心很多成功的可能性就非常低。那个时候就是价值下跌到你离开的时候，
within the
他
control
会
of
想
the
学
institution. Moving is a pretty drastic thing, but it's been
他
done
这个
once
性格
in
觉
the
得
last
就是他肯
150
定
years.
前提必须要有一
Making
个强大的内心，
Southampton
还有
bigger
就是性格非常
nice, but not
什么事儿都
something
达不到
the
或者
university
是
can
这个
particularly
事儿赶不上，换另外一个事儿。还有就是说，
and indeed,
都是你真为他
whenever the local council said,
这
why
个
don't we in Portsmouth get together and then we could have a big conurbation, people say, Portsmouth, no, we don't want to work with that other people. And the people in Portsmouth say, no, we don't want to work with Southampton. You know the story of the Spinnaker Tower?
Yeah. No, we don't.
No, you don't. Okay, the Spinnaker
感
Tower,
觉模糊，
after 10 years or
实
something,
际看不清
was needing a bit of a
到底是为啥，但
repaint.
是他是
So Portsmouth went along and said, well, would anyone like to repaint the Spinnaker Tower? Look, it's really visible, it'd be great advertising. They signed up Emirates. And Emirates said, oh, we'll paint your Spinnaker Tower red. When the people of Portsmouth discovered this, they said, we will not have our tower red because that's the colours of Southampton Football Club. Emirates, it's nothing to do with them. So they had to change their minds and paint it a different colour. So, yeah, nice idea, but local politics gets in the way of merging with the other obvious contender. Okay, what are the opportunities? What are the threats? Yeah.
Other universities poaching the faculties?
Okay. It's really about staff and students, of course, because you want to be able to say staff and students choose the university because of these qualities. There's a threat if those qualities aren't maintained, people leave. Yeah.
Can I say an opportunity?
Yeah.
The opportunity would be to decrease the fee by even a grant.
Okay. Yeah. It's
And then
interesting.
that would make the competition even higher because better students would want to come here, not only because it's good education but also because it's cheaper.
Let me put it slightly different. The suggestion is decreasing the fee. Okay. What the university cares about, I guess, is the total income. So decreasing the fee on the face of it would decrease the total income, but it might generate an increase in student numbers that's more, and so you might increase the income. Okay. Now, what a business does is it considers pricing very carefully, whereas what this university does is it tends to sort of set fixed prices and not vary them up. Okay. So I think I agree there's an opportunity to vary the fee.
Maybe instead of varying the fees, you can increase the number of scholarships.
To
In terms of number and quantity for.
yeah. So one of the ways that businesses vary the price is by offering discounts. In the context of a university, you call those discounts scholarships and bursaries. Okay, good point. Yeah.
Would a threat be sort of reliant on third-party companies like the student loans people?
Okay. Yeah.
If for example, the student loans people stopped altogether and everyone had to pay all their tuition fees up front, that would remove the sort of number of people who would be able to be in a financial position to do that.
So at the moment, the student loan company is sort of backed by the UK government, but they have indicated they're thinking about privatising.
They're sold off already, some law.
Yeah.
They like in last month.
Okay, yeah. So this is a thread, and that's a specific example. Yeah.
Brexit is potentially going to make it very difficult for European students to get into this university, and it's going to slash a lot of research funding.
Yeah, so the breakup of the EU or Britain leaving the EU will have an impact on those students. Yeah.
Will online school be a threat? Online school.
Thank you. Yeah. So
Can there be a devil's advocate and say that Brexit is an opportunity for university as well?
Good. Okay. So that same point that a threat can be an opportunity, a strength can be a weakness, and particularly something like this, which is just making a huge change, is both an opportunity and a threat. Now, finally, what I wanted you to do was think about some bit of the university that's not ECS. No point thinking about ECS, of course ECS is perfect. Some bit of the university that you're familiar with, and think, well, does it have e-business channels? Is it taking all the opportunities it should for new product, new service development? What about its positioning and differentiation? What about its revenue model? How does it manage its supply chain, internal management? Some of those you won't be able to answer, but the question I'm asking is, think of a subdivision of the university. Is it digitally ready? Does it support these goals, and will it be a strength in contributing to attacking those opportunities? So, bit of the university you're familiar with, and then on a scale of kind of 0 to 8, is it digitally ready?
你得考虑一下你 华的那个，这个不知道我说，有时候啊，就是，最关键是对方不能是一个太敏感的人。
Why are you capitalizing all these words that don't
像草阳那样那么敏感，就是容易。
philosophical, classical philosophy, stoicism.
就是跟最敏感，就是敏感，跟一个那种相处是最
Big P,
容易
big F,
big E。
我对象都是不敏感。
In my mind,
因为
like
他的成长环境，他辈分大。
Okay, let's make this easier.
就是家里亲戚多，然后。
Name a few subdivisions of the university other than ECS that you are familiar with.
是也是你们一个地方的吗？
Oh, somebody knows about medicine. I don't know. I'll rule that one out. I think it's difficult for you to pick another discipline or subject area, unless you happen to have got a first degree in medicine and then switched over to ECS, but that's not so common. So what other bits of the university are you familiar with? Leaving out subject areas.
Film studies.
The library.
你不能太，因为
What?
就是一个女生，所以就自己独立也
Say that.
这是最关键的。你把你自己的事儿干好，就是对他最大的支持。但是你别
Solutions.
就是
一谈事儿，我不可能就是首先我
to give them their full title, building and estate, look after the buildings and the grounds, the estate of the university. They don't actually run, I think it's a separate responsibility.
而且在实现梦想的路上不能靠女人。
Paint the walls, fix the roof, manage the building of the new building over in Salisbury Road. So, let's just quickly answer this. So we're not spending too long. The library. On a scale of, let's make it 0 to 10, who thinks the library is less than 5? Who thinks the library is 5 or thereabouts? Okay, more than 5? Yeah, 10? No, okay, that sounds like about 7 or 10. Buildings and estates. Who thinks they're 5?
I've given it
2. Okay.
You can look a roof, but you don't have access to the
Yeah, that's true. You can put a roof and have access to the building. How many of you know to report the leaking roof? My solution. And then is it ready?
还有个女朋友，更糟心的
Six.
谁都是这样。
They've even got Windows 10 printers driving. They do.
How can you interact with them digitally? Does that work well? Who thinks 5? Less than 5? More than 5? Less than 5? Less than 5?
反正呢，年轻人我觉得你这个也挺好，但是
Right. So the point of this exercise is to say, all right, when you look at the detail of an organisation, some parts may be more digitally ready than others.
Internet KB.
And that creates an opportunity for the business, because if they're thinking, oh well, we could maybe use e-business to improve. Finding those areas which are less advanced may be a way of meeting some of the goals addressing the opportunities and threats. And certainly, when you're thinking about a bigger organisation, if you pick one, within that bigger organisation, very likely there'll be areas of opportunity for e-business because some parts of that organisation will not really be digitally ready. Okay, so apologies, let's run on a little bit, but we'll take our break, or should we just carry on? Should we carry on? Alright, yeah, today we'll carry on.
The building, the right order. Huh? What's the building? Relevant order. That's definitely weakness. Yeah. That's just business. It's not e-business. Like, why is 46 diagonally across the country from 45? After that, you literally build the top buildings.
但是你我觉得那种做商业、做技术这条路。
On the side of the car park, like a little bit on the inside of the car park. And 45 is so new as well.
他做技术也行，但是关键他就是
On time, I was late to lecture at 45. I was late to lecture at 46. Went to 45 by accident. Like,
The other thing I'll do, and more of from now on, is start introducing some case studies, and that may help. This case study is a little bit different because it's not based on a real business. So that's not quite so exciting as some of the other case studies, but here are the slides. So let's have a go with this one, which comes out of a book. I mentioned Grove, and he wrote a book called High Output Management.
他以前有工作还行，在台湾，然后就是结果他大家都在那坐着不做事情，那赶单没钱包的就喝点茶，这个被扣。
政府部门是吧？
So, short case study, we haven't got that much time, so that's fine. It's not a real business, and this is a little bit unusual. The other case studies will be all real examples. But, this is trying to give you a feeling of what it's like to run Intel. And to do that, he picked a very simple example of a breakfast cafe. And what he's trying to do is getting you to think about the management of supplies, the supply chain, and the management of process, and in the case of Intel, that would be chip manufacture. Now those things are quite technical involved, so instead, he said, okay, we'll think about a breakfast cafe. And he's cut it down to the basics. He said, all right, it will just provide a standard breakfast, all eggs, butter toast, coffee. And the idea is you go in, say, give me my breakfast, bang, 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 on the table, delivered on time, acceptable quality, and lowest cost. Now, there's just a little bit of, processing these raw ingredients to make them into a breakfast, assembling them, putting them on a plate, making sure the quality is acceptable. So process, assembly and test, just like in a fabrication plant that Intel would have a lot of, a number of. And it's slightly unusual in that trying to keep the kitchen down, there's a sort of assumption that it's the waiters that manage the cooking. So I see you come in, I put the egg, I put the toast ready, and I provide them to you when they're cooked. So we cook on demand is one scenario. another scenario that crops up a little bit later in the book is we're saying, but we could improve the process if we automate it. And we could automate the process by having an egg boiling machine that cooks continuously. We pop the egg in on the assembly line, it goes through the boilers and steam cooks the egg, comes out. So rather than just boiling it in the traditional way, we could have some kind of assembly line machine. Now, to manage a factory you need staff and equipment, same for a cafe of course, but also you need some indicators and measurements to see how well you're doing. So this relates back to those KPIs that business will have and it'll have targets for. So what 5 measures would we have of our simple breakfast cafe? Yeah. Okay.
性格是那样的，是吧？不是敏感。
不是敏感的，不是敏感的性格，但是它是敏感的属性。
对，会让人有这种错觉。
但是它不是也是敏感的。
Consistency of the quality of food?
The quality of the food, yeah, now that's an important thing to measure, but it's not itself a measurement. But what can we measure that will give us an indication of the quality? So we could ask the customers if they're satisfied, yeah? Which is measuring a number of things, but one of those would be the quality of the food. Yeah, anything else we could measure? The
number of people that actually
the turnover, yeah. I mean, any business, of course, will be measuring its income.
Amount of time they spend in the actual thing.
The amount of time who spends?
The customer spends.
Right.
How long are they?
Okay, yeah. The duration of customer stay. Because you kind of want people to leave so that you can get new customers and get a new revenue, because they probably only have one breakfast. Yeah. Remember, we're thinking of this a little bit like a factory. So, let's see what else I've got. A factory would need to have some understanding what it's going to be asked to produce. For a business like this cafe, it would just be for the day. For a factory, it might be a longer forecast. We need to measure our inventory. What have we got in stock? Are we going to be able to satisfy the sales forecast? Is our equipment reliable? Particularly if we've gone into some sophisticated egg boiling automated machine, what happens if it breaks? Have we got staff in work? And then finally, the quality. We could look at the number of complaints, the satisfaction survey. So how often does the customer say, no, this egg is no good, it's been boiled too much, or it's not been boiled enough, I'm not happy. So those things you kind of don't need to go seek out. You don't need to seek out because they're in your face, but you just need to count those sort of incidents. Whereas satisfaction, you have to make an effort to conduct those surveys. And there's advice from Undergrove which says look at indicators which are backward-looking and forward-looking. If you only look forward, you may overreact. You've got a sales forecast that says, oh, we're going to have thousands of customers today, and you think, oh my gosh, we haven't got enough eggs or bread or coffee in stock. And then you say, yeah, but they always come up with these ridiculous sales forecasts on Christmas. And actually, you don't get that many people because they want to go shopping, not have breakfast. So it's correct that there's going to be a lot of people around Southampton, but they're not all having breakfast. So you can use your knowledge of the past to sort of moderate these future indicators. So the forecast is one thing, but the variation from the forecast is another. And likewise with inventory and frequency of shortage in the past. If you're not careful, inventory can go a number of ways, which is not good. You just keep ordering more and more inventory because you think we might need some more. We might need more. So you have more and more stock. You open the cupboard door and all these eggs fall out because you just over-order. Or you try to adjust for that, and then you think, oh, we'll order more when we need more, and order less when we need less. And then the inventory goes up and down like the tide, maybe that's sensible, maybe it's not, but there may be better ways about it. So this is his advice about those things. So it's okay, indicators are good, leading indicators make predictions. They help us to predict problems. It's good if the indicators are linearly, so they're sort of calibrated with the problems that they're trying to predict. And the trend indicators show the changes versus the past. So his suggestion for a way of sort of combining past and future is what he calls the stagger chart. So in January, our actual production was 23, whatever it was we were producing. At that point, we predict we're going to be producing 27 and 33. But when we get to February, actually we only had 21 that we produced. But we were predicting 30 in March, 30 in April. Well, when we get to March, we only produced 29 against predictions of 33 or 30. So we can see that our estimates of the future are being systematically a little excessive. And this is actually what's happening. So we know it's reasonable to look at those forecasts and then just adjust them down a little bit, because the reality is always a little bit less than the forecast, at least on that segment of time that we're looking at. And again, focusing on the supply chain part of this business, our goal is to match production and consumption. So the ideal situation would be if the predicted customer numbers were the predicted stock of eggs, or indeed if the actual customer numbers are the actual stock of eggs. Because it costs money to overorder the eggs, and because they're a food item, they might decay or spoil while they're in storage. So you don't want to order too many, but on the other hand, you have to allow that the predictions you have of the customer numbers are not reliable. So you need a little bit of slack to adjust for, to allow for the situation where more customers arrive than predicted. And also, occasionally there's a production failure, you break an egg, you cook it too much, or something, you have to throw it away. Okay. So, inventory is the way of providing slack. But it costs money to have those goods in stock. How much money depends on the kind of business. So Andy Grove making chips, his inventory would be wafers, which are already quite expensive items. And then the fab turns those wafers into processors or other chips. So you want to have some wafers in stock, but not too many because they are expensive. And you've tied up your capital. If you can reduce the inventory in a safe way, then you've freed up that capital, a little bit of capital, to do something else with the money. And also inventory at the lowest value stage. Now, here's some comments about quality, as well as seeing whether the customers are happy or whether they return the goods. You need to assure yourself of the quality of the eggs you buy, the bread you buy. You don't want to be buying rotten eggs, rotten bread. So how do you guard against that? Well, you need to send it back to the supplier, tell them if they don't get their act together, you're not going to do business with them in the future. And you could check every package of every loaf of bread, every egg. But that's a bit tricky because it may be difficult to determine without breaking it whether the egg is rotten. So another way of doing it is to test a sample and check, one egg in a dozen, one egg in 100 to see if it's wrong. If you have a gate and you won't let anything through and it's acceptable quality, only perfect goods get through, but it costs them more to do the quality assurance. The sampling is cheaper, but of course it's not so reliable, and you have to vary between the two depending on the quality of the goods that you're actually buying. So, you have to deal with these kind of questions when you're running a business. Who are your best employees? How do you reward or incentivize them? How do you encourage the other employees to do better? Who are your best customers? And likewise, what kind of rewards or incentives can you offer beyond, of course, providing a really good brokerage? So far, this is talking about a single cafe, which is not so interesting because it's not such a big scale business. But of course, if a business like that is a success, it will think about setting up different cafes, whether with the same management or else offering it as a franchise and letting other people run their own cafes but use your branding and your approach to running the cafe. So do you build them yourself or do you set up franchising? Whichever, if you're expanding, then it becomes important that those new cafes operate in the same way, provide the same quality, the same level of service. So how can you capture what it is that works in a single cafe and roll it out around the country or to the franchisees? Because those new cafes should enhance the reputation, not lower it, and you may need to pay extra attention to quality assurance while you're doing that kind of expansion. So these are the kind of issues that you have to think about running that kind of business. Fair enough, all very sensible and traditional, but the question is, what are the possibilities for having some e-business or information technology within that breakfast cafe business model, particularly as the breakfast cafe expands to having multiple cafes or franchises. So, your mission, should you be in a creative mood, is how can this kind of business make use of some kind of website or mobile app or some IT-enabled business transformation, supply side within the cafe and facing the customers. Talk with your neighbour, see if you can come up with any ideas, and across the group of you, I'm hoping we can put some of these
Amazon got those certain thing buttons where you hit it and it just orders the thing, you know? How do you do that with a breakfast cafe? Huh?
我看那哥们儿最近
Have a little coffee
写文
button
章
like
挺好。
this. Huh? Coffee. No, but like when you do the retreat at the end of each day to see what person
我一般有什么好东西我就放
three
进去。
buttons. Does all the orders automatically for you.
哎，你这是刚买的戒指还
You
是？
open to slight abuses and
给他发了吗？
but
看这个还是得
maybe
带
you
上。
could scan it with an ID card, you know. IT-enabled business transformation.
该买。
啊？
In-house
因为他也不经常带。
robot ways.
我俩，
这是要闹哪
Putting
样？
grades up on your CV. Huh?
不是我开始过来的时候，
No,
然
I
后
don't do that because I didn't actually meet the
我
requirements.
说我
I
怕
got
丢
it.
了，他说那就别带了。
AAA, but I got A-star AB.
刚好丈母娘在旁边，
And
我俩
just
都
the
把
one that
戒指
physics I won
都不
mine.
戴，
I
都
got
给
I
丈
got
母娘
one
保
Tuesday
管
by
着
2
呢。
bucks.
啊，后来觉得
But
还是
I
带
think
上。
they let it go because of the A-star. Yeah, they were like, hey, you cheat. Why are you doing this section? Split up. Because that's too big. You could fit it in, but they think it's hard. I don't think they split sections among cases either. How do I? You asked the latex expert. Don't know. You should put reference in your CV. Oh, well, that's for Dixon Cole. Holy shit, let me put referees. No, I just did. So I can just lie. No, because they'll ask you if it's important. That's why no one puts, like, references available upon request at the end of the CV. It's assumed. Chinese have referees ready to lie. I already got one. So my mom, I put it down as Alex Vanilla. They said, and then you asked for a request, and he hands it off to his finance manager, which is my mom. But they'll ask her what her name is. They'll send Alex Vanilla is down as Alex Vanilla. Vanilla. Yeah. Oh, okay. North London Mafia guy. That sounds so North London Mafia. He'll get the email and he'll just part the work off to my mum. So it's my mum, but I don't have to put Claire Hegarty as a referee.
写文章挺好，特别牛逼的一个。
Remember to let Alex Vanilla definitely start your wall.
就相当于你在这儿写，这边自动
Make sure
非
that
常
Alex
格式非常的好。
I'm confident. He knows what it's mostly true. That's just embellished.
你用一定的符号来写这个文章，它这个文章格式写的就是比腕儿的好。
This is the football coach with your sixes.
比腕儿的好。
What did you do? Layout codes. Terrible referee.
你看，它有点像 VT 那种格式。
Yeah, pay attention to the referee. Like, sip your beer, foul. Even the kid got fouled. Like, no, that wasn't a foul either. That was a fair tackle. Well, referee, you have to respect my decision making. Free kick for him. I'll give you the yellow card. Out of my face. I just never give fouls. When there's like a sick slide tackle, breaks a kid's knee, like, no, he touched the ball first. It's okay. You got a red card for having weak bones, son. Drink the milk. You're out for the season. Well, yeah, clearly. Broken knee. The weed should clear the stroke.
Okay, let's see if you have come up with any ideas. What about some kind of app for interacting with our suppliers? What could we have there? Yeah.
You could have an automated system for doing orders on inventory, so rather than doing it manually, you press buttons or...
Yeah. So we can have ordering, order automation.
Yeah. 我们这种格式，它这是预览，你这个
Anyone thought of any different? The obvious one there. What about in-house operation? Yeah.
Rather than paper tickets to convey orders to the chef, you have like an electronic system that just displays it.
So we could order on some kind of tablet. Yeah. 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 So if we think about the management of the cafe, not just what the waiters do, but somebody looking at the cafe as a whole, and it would be okay, we'll hold that thought. What about the customer side? Yeah.
Maybe pre-book tables, takeaways. Pre-booking of tables.
你看这，回到 reach test 到这儿写，你看现在已经是这个格式。
First line about just kind of automating what we're doing rather than doing a transformation. So I think takeaways is more like a business transformation because it's switching to a different business model. So we'll talk about takeaways when we get to that part. What about other things we could do just to improve the breakfast cafe as I described it, but providing a web or mobile app to the customer? Feedback? That's a good one, yeah.
People from ordering shitload of food is shame. So just do it like a McDonald's. That's why McDonald's do the things.
Yeah. So if you order a book on Amazon, it's good to be able to track the process. You can see that the book's been put in the post. It's going to be with you tomorrow. If this breakfast cafe is working, you don't really need to track the process because you know your egg's going to be with you in a couple of minutes. So if it's taking so long, you need to have a web app to see what's happening. It's kind of failed already. But
make sure you have full social media integration, so you can have people posting pictures of their eggs and stuff, and
so
liking
we
eggs,
use social media for
Instagram.
for what?
Huh? You know, it's just generally a good way to get brand awareness, get user interaction rates up, and
Okay,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
so advertising,
Yeah.
yeah.
Twitter supplement that with
advertising and branding.
hashtag Memphis, Tennessee.
Any others? Yeah.
I mean, you have the app and so that it can store vouchers in the form of QR
Yeah,
codes.
yeah. There was sort of some kind of loyalty scheme. For the regular customers to get some kind of vouchers or discounts. All right. Okay. So, what about business transformation enabled by technology?
How is loyalty defined different from takeaway? Isn't that being modeled to loyal clients? Because you don't know if they do loyal.
So how would a loyalty scheme be different from takeaway?
That's, I think that's a different
Is it a different business model? Good question. If you vary the price for different customers, is that a different business model, or is that just tweaking the existing business model? Yeah. I would say it's just tweaking the existing business model. Because unless there was something in the original business model which said we only do fixed price, then having variable prices isn't such a big deal. I mean, if you're Poundland and your business model is everything is a pound, and you say, oh, we're going to vary the prices, so I can see that that's a different business model. You're going to have to change the name of your shop if you want to vary the prices. But for most businesses, they vary the prices, and it doesn't really make a big deal. So yeah. And for any business, it's certainly worth thinking about finding a way of rewarding the best customers, and the loyalty scheme is one way of doing that. Business transformation on the supplier side, what can we do?
This transformation is meant to be like sort of another thing that you change the whole way.
It would be a different business model or something that would be such a big change, it would double the profit. You know, it's really significant. Yeah.
Well, buy the producer, it's not able to go to.
Okay, so we could buy our own chicken farm. Okay.
We can control the chicken production.
So we own our own supply chain instead of being dependent on other people. That's one thing that would be quite a profound change. It's not IT enabled though, I forgot that. It's supposed to be IT enabled. Where's the information technology in owning our own Is it IT? No, okay. We could make robot chicken. Yeah. Robot chicken, alright, yeah.
Robot chicken.
I'm thinking maybe...
Take a page out of the book, make all of our self-employed people pay less than minimum wage.
Everyone's laughing 20 years, man. You never know.
Wait and see.
Toaster chicken machine.
There's in chip manufacture, there are two such changes. One was just-in-time ordering. So it's a way of reducing the stocks. You don't order weekly, but you order daily or hourly as you need. And the other one is to buy, to get the supplier to, I'll say, pre-cook. I don't think that's possible in this breakfast cafe, because the whole thing is the food is cooked in the cafe so that it's fresh. So it doesn't really work to buy pre-cooked food in this scenario. Just-in-time ordering might be to sort of step on from order automation, and it might count as a IT-enabled business transformation, depending on the frequency of the orders at the moment. Moving to daily or hourly ordering might be a transformation. What about in-house? Yeah.
We could take a page out of Uber's book and make all our staff self-employed so we can pay them less than minimum wage.
Okay, yeah. It's a different business model. Make our employees contractors. Yes, but why is it IT enabled?
What's Uber doing it, Deliveroo doing it? I'm not sure.
You kind of have to keep track of what they've done with some kind of computer system.
Yeah.
So it might just about be IT. Okay, yeah. Any other thoughts?
You can reduce the number of staff by doing narrow screens in which the customers can order their own food.
Right. We have we kind of combine this with customer self-ordering, and then we can have fewer employees, maybe. Okay. Every now and again, McDonald's says, we don't like the minimum wage. Really, they don't see why they should pay their employees so much. And then they go on to say, because of course, we could use robots to cook our burgers. And really, it's crazy to be paying this minimum wage because we could use robots. Now, they've never actually done that, and I suspect they probably couldn't because it's not easy to get a robot to cook burgers and everything. But another possibility would be to have a robot chef. And maybe this is a little bit simpler than cooking a burger. I don't know. I would bet on this rather than a robot chicken. But anyway. Okay. So these are all quite tricky. Now we're left with the takeaways. And how is that IT enabled? How can we have a takeaway system which is IT enabled? Thank you. So we can do drone delivery. And again, you think, well, that's not going to happen. But this may happen sooner than the robot chef, and the robot chef will probably happen sooner than the robot chicken. Some of those things may well happen. And maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, if you believe what you read in the newspapers about the trials that Amazon and other companies are doing. All right. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed that slightly crazy business idea. No, I'm not
I can build a robot egg machine right fucking now. It just works like a toaster. You have a cube of eggs that you feed into it, right?